Welcome back to Taking Lunch with Korben London, where I spend 30 minutes talking with people who haven't made it yet, but are on their way. Today's guest, my big brother, Brandon London. He Super Bowl champion with the New York Giants, Grey Cup champion with the Montreal Alouettes. He's walked in fashion shows, done print ads, been in TV shows, and right now he's an on-air content host for the New York Giants, as well as Daily Blast Live in Denver, Colorado. And today he's going to tell us how he got there. Brandon, how are we doing today?
What's going on, my man? How formal? Do I have to be formal with you as my brother, or it's funny you saying that.
You know, it's people funny. Like it here.
It's funny you introducing me like that, but I appreciate you having me on, man. And you've watched my journey, from day one. I remember back when I was working out and stuff, and when we lived in Charlottesville. And I'd have you outside, playing the music while I'd run hills and stuff like that. So I'm proud of what you're doing and all. So you know what it's like to work hard. You know what it's like to chase dreams. So thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Well, all about you today. So we can just jump right into it.
All right.
One of the first things in your life that you've done that I think I've admired, I'd love for you to talk about it. You are a semester away from graduating college, and you essentially withdrew from school, didn't get your degree. Talk about why you did that and where that's kind of brought you today.
Well, I'm not even trying to glorify that, because it was such a gamble, especially playing at UMass. And at the time we were FCS 1AA. And I just knew I've always been one of those people to where I'm going to bet on myself, and I knew that I needed to get the proper training for my pro day. And not only the pro day at UMass, but Boston College's pro day, I had to get the proper athletic training. So I withdrew from school right after the national championship when we lost to App State. And I went down to Florida and started training out with Mike Gold. And I got my 40 time down from mid 4.5s, mid to high 4.5s. So I actually ran 4.47 at private workouts with the Cleveland Browns, and I had low 4.5 at my pro days and stuff. So it's one of those things where in life, like I said, you've seen my ups and downs, like your audience, you guys haven't, but in life there are going to be times where you're going to just have to go against the status quo and really bet on yourself. I think a lot of successful people out there, that's why they are successful in a sense, and there is levels to success in a sense, but anyone who we look up to, I feel as though, or anyone who's an innovator has taken some sort of risk and had to bet on themselves. And what's different from your generation, my generation, is you guys, no one's really pushing you guys. Well, I take that back. People aren't pushing y'all as hard like they did us in terms of go to college, go work 40 hours a week for a business, go do this for a company. You guys are getting what we wish. You guys are getting the education and the knowledge that we wish that we had gotten, to where we're learning, or we had to learn as grownups, to where it's like, hey, no, sometimes whether it's going to be entrepreneurship or just living the dream you want for your type of quality of life, you're going to have to bet on yourself at some point. And where that's gotten me now, UMass is my academic advisor at UMass. We've talked about me going back to school and finishing that degree. Our grandma, I promised her that I would go back and get my degree. But honestly, where I'm at with that now, Korben, unless it's, to me, going back for that one semester just to get that degree means absolutely nothing to me. I know I promised our grandma and all, but my learning, my growth is coming from something that I don't feel as though that sociology degree is going to help me with. In terms of this is my second nationally syndicated talk show. I do TV stuff for the New York Giants. And that all came from being able to play professional football, but realizing that I knew I wanted to do TV after football. I didn't want to do anything sociology, accounting, anything that was going to require me to have a degree. I don't even want to coach football in the family business. So to me, my going back to school was enrolling in Montreal School of Performing Arts while I was playing football in Canada. in my off seasons taking acting classes with the spirited actor Tracy Moore, or out in LA with Marquis Costello, where you drive by her offices all the time,
Yeah.
and you've seen it, you've seen that growth. So to me, it's like I could go back to school for that piece of paper. I could do that, but my growth, my knowledge, and what I want to do is not so much it's a university. It's these schools and these classes and meeting people and watching our producers at Daily Blast Live, listening in on their meetings, watching what they do, because I want to be a producer one day, you know? So I think that's my education. And when I produce my first big project, to me, that'll be more satisfying than me getting a piece of paper saying I graduated from the University of Massachusetts.
Okay. Okay. I mean, yeah, I think that definitely makes sense. I think you're in a unique situation to where you made stuff happen for yourself. You didn't just leave school and then everything fell apart. Like you kind of had a plan in place and a goal that you wanted to achieve. So was the goal getting drafted, right? When you withdrew from school, was that ultimate goal to get drafted, or was it just to make it into the NFL some way, somehow?
I wanted to get drafted and I wanted to make it into that. I wanted to get my foot in the door. That was the biggest thing. So when you say having a plan, when one thing as you're learning with life, and one thing that you and your audience are going to learn as you guys are growing up in this world, these industries, is that when you make a plan, God laughs. You know, like you're gonna have to have a plan A through Z, because things are not going to work out the way that you want them to work out. So if you're going to do something, you're going to take a risk. You're going to take a gamble. You can't just say like, "Oh, I'm going to go and do this and that's it." Absolutely not. You have to be real with yourself in a sense to where it's like, hey, the ultimate goal is to get here, but there are multiple paths to get to where you want to get to. So that goal was just the main goal was to get my foot in the door. You know, getting drafted was, yeah, I wanted to get drafted. Absolutely. Every player wants to get drafted. But my main goal was, hey, you're leaving school, you're leaving behind, you know, the last of your free education to do what you want to do. So if you better be ready, you know, if things don't work out the way things don't work out the way it's planned. Fortunately for me, I made the practice squad with the Giants that year, and that gave me time to develop, play with the Dolphins, and then go up and play in Canada for those years.
Okay, so when you did, so like you said, you know, because I remember we had draft day, Nana and Papa's house. You know, we knew you weren't going to go on day one, and then day two and day three rolls around, and it's like, dang, like I just want them to call this dude's name. Like, so they didn't call your name, but right after the drafts, New York Giants called you up. They wanted to bring you on. So what was it like from going to, you know, FCS school, UMass, you know, small stadium, or, you know, you maybe didn't have the biggest facilities, the biggest weight room. What was it like going from that to the New York Football Giants when you walk down the hall and you see Eli Manning, you see Michael Strahan, Plaxico Burress, all these legends? What was that like for you as a, you know, 21, 22-year-old kid?
I think that was just seeing those legends was the biggest high, you know, the biggest culture shock at first, because we grew up on sidelines. You know, I grew up in D1 weight rooms, and going when dad was with the Texans, I went down there and worked out with them and hung out with Andre Johnson. And also seeing legends and being around that, you know, high quality football is nothing to me. But exactly what you said, like, you're there. I showed up in a suit for rookie camp. First day, rookie camp, I showed up in a suit, and Eli, I was going through the locker room to go get a physical or something, or go to a cafe really quick. And there Eli was. He just finished working out, and like, I was like, there's Eli Manning right there. And it wasn't something that's just starstruck, like, oh my gosh, it's Eli Manning. Let me throw rose petals when he walks. It was nothing like that. It was, I'm here. That's Eli Manning. I'm here. You know, and that when you come to that realization, when that moment hits, you know, when you've gambled on yourself and you've worked your butt off and you haven't been able to go home, you know, in a long time, because I was running indoor track. So I couldn't come home during Christmas breaks and stuff from time to time. And when you bet on yourself and you had those sacrifices, and then it's like, bam, there goes that moment. It's a feeling like no other, you know, like all those lonely nights, all those oodles and noodles and all those time away from family, all those moments where you just sitting there like, what am I doing? When that doubt is hitting you, all that is erased at that moment where you're like, I've arrived. But then that feeling goes away just like that, because you're like, all right, I've arrived. It's time to really get to work now. It's time. So it's successful people who want to make it. And again, there's levels to making it, like I can, when people are saying, I can't say if I don't make it to Michael Strahan's level that I was a failure. I can't do that, because you're constantly going to be chasing something. You're never going to believe that what you're doing is enough, but I'll never have that feeling of contentment. As long as I still got fight in my body, I'm going to continue to climb as much as this industry ladder, this career ladder that I can, because you got to be able to create the world you want for yourself, the life you want for yourself. And so to go back to that, it was that moment of, wow, I'm here. And then it quickly shifted to, I'm here, let's get to work.
Because you were an undrafted free agent, which means you didn't have, a big $1 million contract, $1 million signing bonus or whatever. I'm sure you didn't have the best position in the locker room in terms of where your locker was, whatever it may be. So, going from being in college, breaking records. I mean, up until Victor Cruz, everyone knows who Victor Cruz is. You had all the records, right? Your name is on the wall at UMass, and your picture was on the flyers and the tickets and things like that. So you went from kind of being the guy to showing up and being on the practice squad, to where you didn't get to play in the games your first, year with the Giants. You didn't have the opportunity to suit up with the team. So talk about like the sacrifice that you had to make from going from being like, like I said, like the guy, the one who's catching the touchdowns and, making the best plays, to having to get the team ready for that week and the week after and everything like that.
Well, it wasn't a sacrifice at all. It was a blessing. I was there. I wasn't ready to play professional football year one. Towards the end of the year, there was a game where Sonoris Moskau, he against the Buffalo Bills later on in the year, he wasn't supposed to try. He wasn't supposed to play that week because of his hamstring. So I was I was getting reps with the ones and like special teams just in case I was going to get brought up. And I was week 16, like it was late in the year. So if I just sat there and was like, oh man, I'm pouting because, oh man, I'm used to being one of the stars at UMass, to now I got to be TO this week to get the first team defense ready, or I got to be Randy Moss this week. If I would have sat there and pouted and not gotten ready for an opportunity and gotten, let's say Sonoris couldn't go, and I did get bumped up and I wasn't ready, and I dropped the ball or some sort of miscue, we lost that game, I would have never saw the field after that. So it was a blessing to be able, because remember, you master one level, you get to that next level, you roll your sleeves up, and it's like that, let's go, let's get to work. But that let's get to work, it may take, depending on what industry you're in or what you do for a living, it might take you a little bit of time to get to your first real opportunity on that next level. So to me, it was a blessing because I used to sit right next to Eli in the offensive meetings, or be back there with plaques, and I would pick everybody's brain. Every Friday, right when we would break the meetings for receivers before we go out to the field, I go jump in the hot tub to go in there and pick Strahan's brain, and he just texted me the other day and told me, and saw some of my stuff on social media of a tape that I had at Daily Blast Live. And he told me he's proud of me of doing a good job. And he remembers those questions I was asking, during his final season, my rookie year, and it's funny how, and it's just funny how you don't have time to sit there and sulk. Like your generation, don't get down on yourself or feel like you're not progressing if you're not getting this instant gratification to get to that top level. If you want to be The Rock, or you want to be, Drew Rosenhaus, you want to, let's say, or whatever it is you want to do, you want to get to that level, it's going to take a series of mountains that you're going to have to master to get to that top level. So you can't be like, oh, I'm not Drew Rosenhaus right away. I'm not going to work for the Clippers no more. I don't like it. Like I should be CAA right away. No, that's stupid. Stupid. Everyone's going to have their time. The opportunity is going to come. You better prepare your butts off and get ready for that first shot. Because if you don't, a lot of the times, if you don't impress on that first shot, it's going to be hard to get that next one, or it's going to be a long time for you to build back to that next real opportunity.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great way to look at it, especially, climbing mountains and kind of facing those trials and tribulations. And I think one thing that like I've seen from you that I'm learning now is being away from home, right? You went away to school, lived in New York, then you had to move to Miami, you moved to Pittsburgh, you're in Canada, you were in LA, like you were all over the place. And you always told me that like, missing out on the birthdays and the weddings and the funerals and things like that, like, it really gets to you. And I think I had my first dose of that a couple of weeks ago. It was Kaya, our 3-year-old niece's birthday. And I had to, FaceTime her and sing happy birthday through FaceTime. And it was like, man, I really wish that like I was like with her for that. I was able to like experience that with her. So, what has that really been like for you in terms of having to leave home, having to make those sacrifices en route to, achieving your goals and doing what you want to do?
Hardest thing, arguably the hardest part of it, because we're so family based. The London's is it's London gang. We pull up in a 15 passenger van for a Howard football game when Dad was coaching at Howard, and we had the shirts. We are a gang. We're a tribe. So that one thing I would tell you, man, don't let the alcohol or don't let like distractions be what numbs you from that pain, being away. I think a lot of the times, like being away, like what I did to try and cope with missing out on weddings and birthdays and all that was kind of try and fill that void with stuff that's just either I was grinding like, hey, nah, I'm working out. I'm working out. I'm doing this. They're gonna see why I'm gone. They're gonna see, what I'm saying? They're gonna see why I'm gone. I would have that to fill that void, but then there's also like, the bad part of trying to fill that void, partying, hanging out all the time, doing those dumb things. And, I just think that it's gonna hurt. It's going to sting, but you always have to remember your why. Your why. Why was I in Canada? Why was I in Pittsburgh? I couldn't have done that just being in Virginia, after I graduated from college. My goals in life weren't there for me in Virginia, so it's my path is a little bit different because I had to go. We have a family that, Uncle Gary, I remember one time I was hanging with Uncle Gary. I'm crying. I'm like, man, I'm always gone and this, blah, blah. Nephew, we understand. You living your life, man. You're doing we are proud of you. It's when your parents and your grandparents and when Daily Blast Live, I remember when I guess Mikey was at our older brother, Mike Jr. was at our grandparents' house, and Daily Blast Live came on and he took the picture of Nirma and Papa watching me on TV. There's the crying that I've had from missing being home couldn't touch the way the tears of joy poured out of my eyes because he sent that picture of Nirma and Papa watching me on TV. So that's what I'm saying. Like, it's going to get rough. It's going to get hard. You're going to climb a mountain, have to turn around, climb another one to get to another level. But you always have to remember your why. Your why has to be very powerful. Otherwise, there's going to be all these outside forces, doubt, fear.
I mean, that's good to hear. I want to take it back to the NFL. You've given me a lot of, knowledge and wisdom and, things like that. But at the end of the day, you were, like I said, 23, 24 years old, living in New York City, making some money. You're no stranger to going out and having a good time and enjoying life and enjoying experience. Talk about, the importance of working hard, right? Doing your responsibilities, staying up late, waking up early, whatever it may be, but also sprinkling in a little bit of that fun, a little bit of that shenanigans every once in a while too.
You definitely have to have a balance of it. And you guys, your generation, you guys got to clean it up a lot more, a lot faster than what we had to clean it up. Like you could, now you're seeing people get in trouble for or getting fired for tweets from when they were 17 years old. So, that time of being in New York and being in Miami, and yeah, I would be the first one in the weight room, last one out, working out and all that. But your off the field life or your out of office life kind of has to now reflect your on the field life. No one's saying you got to be squeaky clean, and yeah, you got to have a balance when it comes to things, but that's always been a distraction for me. That lifestyle, that wanting to be the man, wanting to be the guy. Every locker room I've always been in, it was you could ask any of my old teammates, if you describe like a B London, what's B London like? Oh, works hard, funny dude, great dude. Man, that boy go out, have a good time. That boy's gonna go have a good time. B London, and like you look at that at the time while you're young, you like, yeah, like look, yeah, the guys like we going out, we had Found Blue Hotel, Club Live, party and all that when I'm with Dolphins. But I just think of how much money I blew back then. Two, I just think of what I could have been doing, not only with that money, but that time back then. And then three, yeah, while your friends and your boys thought you were the man, your employer is looking at you like you're about to get up out of here, bro. And that's the same thing with the Dolphins now with Daily Blast Live. Like I've had this gig has made me clean up so much of my life just because, and it's not like, oh, let me go back to old tweets and delete this, not that aspect of it. But when you realize you're attached to something and you realize you have a platform, you have a responsibility, and you have people that look up to you, and you have people around you who are like, hey man, you got it. Hey man, you can be really good in this business. Hey man, like you're really saying some really great things on camera that's resonating with a lot of people. You could mess all that up with one bad experience, one bad tweet. So I'm not telling y'all to be robots per se, because you still have to have balance in life. It's like the rap. I always use the lyric that Kanye said, what you think I rap for? To push a RAV4? Like nothing wrong with anyone who's driving a RAV4 that gets you to point A to point B. But it's like, hey, I'm working this hard. I want to have Bugatti or Lamborghini or something like that. So it's like, yeah, you can work hard. You can do all those things. You can be on top. You can be and you can even be a great producer. Like just in terms of production for whatever business or whatever entity you're in. And it used to be, as long as your production was bigger than your problem, they overlook some things. You get a second, a third, a fourth chance. Not anymore. So your generation, you guys got to find your balance a lot faster and learn how to clean things up a lot faster.
Fast forward through your NFL career, through your professional career, you're up in Canada. Tell me about the story of, I believe is, a mini camp practice or a preseason practice, whatever it may be. You went up for a ball or whatever it was. And after you caught it, you were like, you know what, this football thing isn't me anymore. Tell me that story again of kind of when you knew that it was over for you.
So, I went up to Canada because when I got up to Canada, I was like, I want to play here a couple of years. I'm going back to NFL. I want to go back to NFL. 2012, I was balling out of control up there. Mark Trestman was our head coach, and he ended up, coaching with the Bears that next season. I was a Tress guy. Man, I was averaging 19.9 yards per catch. They were calling me Wavy on TV, doing interviews and stuff. And I tore my meniscus, had a bucket tear meniscus, done for the rest of the year. I only had like 140 yards I needed to get my 1,000-yard season. That moment when I'm sitting there, I'm like, it's time to start thinking about life after football. So, and this is a two-part story. So, after my surgery, I was going in getting PT and all, and I would do physical therapy, but I couldn't go out to practice or anything. So I just go home. So, I couldn't do anything at practice. So I went to Trestman and was like, hey man, since I can't do anything out there, if I come in, get my PT work done, all that, I want to enroll in Montreal School of Performing Arts, and I want to start taking theater. Didn't even have the discussion, took like 3 minutes. He was like, go. He knew it. already. So fast forward, I started doing going. That's when I moved out to LA. Started catching that bug, a little commercial here, a little this here, classes here. Was loving it. Then I was still going back up playing football as well. So I was living in New York during the off season, and I had just packed, and I even tweeted a picture of me with all my bags saying getting ready for the Great Migration, because that's when we go north. Like all the players, we go up north, and it's time to get ready for the season. That right after I tweeted that picture, somebody hit me up and was like, "Hey, just expect someone reaching out to your agent, because my boyfriend is this producer and he saw your reel on YouTube and they might want to audition you for this show." I'm like, what is this person talking about? Lo and behold, couple hours later, my agent hit me up and was like, "Hey, yeah, this show called Hollywood Today Live wants to test you. Fox wants to test you. The network wants to test you." So I went out there, 2-day audition, and it was like not even like audition, like you're just standing in front of the camera. I was on the show with them. I was doing stuff with the panel and all. And that prompter came, boy, that teleprompter was destroying me, And so when I left there, they told my agent, they're like, "Look, he's a little green. We won't hire him we won't hire him as a show. But look, we got, I think it was like a month and a half until the show goes live. How's this? He comes out and we'll sign him to a development deal. So for 6 weeks, we'll give him $2,000 for 6 weeks, and we'll work prompter with him, and we'll work him in with the show and then the host and all that. If he's ready, he'll come on full salary, blah, 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 blah." So I'm up in Canada, and I'm like, "Oh, it's a little bit of a gamble. I don't know." I got through a week of practices in Canada. I'm a starter. And I just remember I got back to the room that late that night. Before curfew, but I'm laying there and I just start crying. I just start crying out of nowhere. I'm like, "Man, what is going on here?" And something in my head was like, "It's over." I'm like, whatever. I wake up the next morning, do my daily routine. We go through 2-a-days, 2 practices. I had like 9 catches that last practice. We're sitting there doing stretch down, and I start crying again.
On the field?
On the field, stretching. And the receiver there, they're looking at me like, "What in the world?" And I went up to then Anthony Calvillo is one of pro football's greatest quarterbacks. He was our receiver coach at the time, but he was a quarterback with me when I played earlier in my career. He was our receiver coach, and I walked up to him and was like, "Ace, I'm done, bro." He's like, "What?" Like, no, he's like, "Go talk to coach. Go talk to." I went right there to Tom Higgins and retired right there. And he was like, they just thought something was going on. They sent me to the GM. They were like, "Look, take the rest of the afternoon off. You still feel the same way tomorrow? Come talk." Laid there, I just crying all day, bro. Like crying for the rest of the day in my dorm room, because I knew it was over. I knew my first love, my baby, it's over. And it was the weirdest thing in the world, but it's just that I'll always remember that voice in my head that twice told me it's over. And I moved on out and then lo and behold, I left Montreal. I was in Jersey for a week to collect a bunch of my stuff. I went out there to LA and fell right flat on my face. So I don't know if that's transitioning to your next thing or whatever, or you want me to keep going, but yeah.
Well, so you fell on your face. So what do you mean by you fell on your face?
That 6 weeks, after that 6 weeks I wasn't ready. After that 6 weeks, I was still messing up on prompter. I wasn't me, like they hired me to be me. And I would get up there and be like a robot because I thought I had to be a certain way. And I was nervous. I remember one time after we were testing, we were just doing some stuff, testing, and I had to go prompter and I had to talk to people and then go back to prompter. And I had all these people in my ear, in my IFB saying, "You got 30 seconds." And I'm like, "Oh, within the," and then it ended. And it felt so terrible. And I was drenched in nervous sweat. And I'm like, wow. So 1 week before we were supposed to air, I'm like, maybe they'll keep me with like a developmental deal for a little bit longer. I got a call. I was at the LA Fitness in North Hollywood. I was on the Stairmaster thingy, the stair climber. And that's when the guy called and was like, hey, man, I love you, man. It's just not, the network doesn't think you're going to be ready and all. And I just remember, like, I just went down with the stair thing, like, because it was like, I just left a guaranteed 6-figure salary playing football for 6 months in Canada to now I'm out here. My bills are still what they are and all that. That $2,000 did nothing. And it was like, what am I going to do? And I called my mom. So our audience, me and Korben have the same dad, different mom. I called my mom and she was like, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna give you 1 minute. You can curse, yell, scream, get that frustration out. After that, I'm gonna cut you off and you're gonna figure it out because you ain't going back to Canada. Her exact words. And I was yelling. She cut me off. She probably gave me like 53 seconds. I'm still due like 7 seconds, Mom. So she cut me off there, and then that's where she was like, "So what can you do?" I was like, "Oh, I'll start personal training." I'd already done some personal training on the side during my off seasons and all. So I started. My first spot was at Aura Yoga right there in the Sunset Plaza. Another place was Plate Fit down off of Beverly and right by Kings Road Cafe, Beverly and Kings Road. And then the next place was called Drive Cardio. And it was all the way out in like the Palisades area. And I just remember I had crashed my car. So I had to take 3 buses on this Sunday to get to Drive Cardio. But I knew I woke up that morning, and that exact morning, I woke up that morning because it'd been a year and a half. I had been out to LA, really didn't book anything, crazy. And I'm looking in the mirror that morning and I'm like, you're a failure, bro. Like, you've had to sell your Super Bowl ring, pawn your Super Bowl ring. You've had to take a grant from the NFL to keep bills paid and all that. And it was like, I'm like, you don't even have a car now. You're in LA, you're taking a bus, 3 buses. So I go, I still go. I was gonna call in, but I still went. And I'm in the class, I'm showing all this energy. I got these, cool clients in there. I'm doing the class, and this lady comes up to me after, and she's like, hey, you have a great look, great energy and all. And she was like, I heard you mention something about you used to play professional football. And I was like, what are you doing out here in LA? I was like, oh, I came out. I'm a whole TV host, came out here, blah, 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 fell on my face, blah, blah, blah. She goes, well, I have a friend, Babette Perry. She just took over as head of broadcasting and alternative at Innovative Artists. Send me your reel. I'll send it over to her. Maybe she takes the meeting, maybe not. She was like, but she's like, you got something about you that I just want to send over. Sent it over. You hear that a lot in LA in this business. I had no clue who she was neither. So you hear it a lot, like, all right, yeah. Sent it over. A couple of days later, she hit me back and was like, hey, Babette, she introed us like, hey, they'd like to take a meeting. They pencil me in for that meeting a month later. I'm thinking the meeting was going to be tomorrow or something. I'm like, I'm about to go see Innovative Artists. They got back to me. It was like, yeah, how's your what's your schedule like a month and later? I'm like, so I go and I wow Babette. And Eric Marino was there as well. He was one of the lead agents there. I go and I wowed them. A couple of days later, they signed me. A month later, they got me an audition with the Giants. Called the Giants because one of her really good friends is Don Sperling, head of Giants TV. And she was like, is there anything you can do for him? And they had just started a lifestyle type division for their sports content. And they're like, well, he's coaching athletes doing, he does stuff with athletes off the field. Let's bring him in and go and see what he's like. But during that whole month and a year and a half, from sleeping on friends' couches to save money and all that, I was doing all that to get extra classes. I was taking Marquise classes like once, twice a week, jumping in on privates. I was always there at her studio. I needed to work prompter. There was a weakness that was setting me back from getting to where I needed to go, and I needed to work it. Fast forward that year and a half to when I went in with the Giants and they had that prompter, crushed it, absolutely crushed it. So it's one of those things where it's like, the level, like I was saying, levels and being ready for opportunity. Again, I was on the practice squad in Hollywood because I had to learn how to be a host or how to get comfortable even getting a decent job as a host. And then bam, the Giants has led me to doing the Giant stuff has led me to do so many other things.
So getting into where you are now, right? Like you were saying, you're taking buses to get to work. And this is post, like you said, making six figures. I mean, when I visited you in Montreal, there was a 100-foot poster of you up in the stadium. People were wearing your jersey. Your jersey was hanging up in the booths and everything like that. Then you went to, like you said, taking buses to work, teaching fitness classes, doing things like that. Now you're working for the Giants, and now you're doing Daily Blast Live TV, with 40 whatever markets that you're in, 77 markets now that you're in. So looking back on those experiences, how are you able to kind of get to where you are now?
Grit, now people are starting to really glorify the grind, and by glorifying the grind, I mean like really talk about the bumps, the bruises, and the heartaches about climbing their mountain to get to where they want to be in their industry, And I'm now that I'm here, it's easy to talk about it. I've talked about it on the show. I pawned my Super Bowl ring. I talked about how I wasn't a huge success in the NFL and I had to take all these classes and all. And it's so funny because I used to run away from that so much. I used to, you live in this world where it's like you get caught up in seeing where someone else is here already and you're still stuck down here and you're like, what's I can't, why glorify being down here when this person is all the way up there? It's an ego thing. But little do I know, everything that I went through that year and a half, 2 years in LA during that time just made me so much stronger, just made me so much hungrier and humble. And I always told myself when I got back on, I was going to make the best. I was going to be appreciative at all times. So when there's times like I do Daily Blast Live Monday through Friday, I'll take the red eye to Boston, rent a car, 5 a.m., drive to UMass, to Amherst, Massachusetts, which is about 2 hours away, sleep in the car, go to a Planet Fitness, shower, shave, put my suit on, go do sideline reporting for a UMass game, and then get in the car, drive down to New Jersey, do the Giants game, wake up Monday morning, go back to Daily Blast Live. And I've done that for 30 days straight was the longest I've done that. And people are like, doesn't that Uncle Gary and like, some aunts would be like, doesn't that tire you out, nephew? I go Super Saiyan, I light up like Goku or whoever that dude is when I'm doing that because I'm living it. You're in it. This is what you were hustling for. This is what the 3 buses were for right here. The 3 buses have now turned into the Uber, the plane, and then the rental car to get to where you got to go, to get to your money, to get to your blessing, your dream. So now it's like, it's not a grind to me. They say when you go through it, you're more appreciative when you get it, So now it's not a grind. So it's easy to connect the dots going back rather than forward. So going back, I now look and realize, hey, why I had to do this, why this didn't work out for me, and why a no was actually the biggest blessing of my life.
Wow, it's my first. I've heard bits and pieces kind of the story, bits and pieces of what you got going on, but the Planet Fitness for 30 days and the shower and stuff like that, I didn't know. So it's crazy to see that, you're doing all this stuff, big brother, posting on my Instagram, all my friends are asking about you, they want to meet you and stuff like that. But it's like, this dude didn't just have this handed to him, right? It wasn't just gifted to him. He actually had to like you said, grit and grind and, get after it. So, that's awesome to hear. One of the things I wanted to ask as well, on the outside, Super Bowl champion, Grey Cup champion, you're on national TV. People may think this dude, he's made it, right? He's figured it out. Like he's set for life. He's ready to hang up the cleats and retire and get that mansion on the water, whatever it may be. But me knowing you, I know you still have a lot left in the tank. What are you now striving towards? What are you now going towards? What goals do you want to achieve? And how do you plan on getting there?
Financial freedom and starting my own production company and having my own like sports related stories and contents and commercials, maybe shoot some spec commercials, that sort of thing. Michael Strahan has really put that blueprint out there of what I want. I just want to put my own stamp on it, and his blueprint, his architectural blueprint is for him, but I like it for me. And I'm following that road with fashion and producing projects and just everything that he does and embodies. And I think right now it's crazy because during school, I was so terrible in school because nothing caught my attention. Now all I want to do is learn. All I want to do is learn about stuff, see different cultures, experience different things, travel the world, and sit down with people. So I think right now is more about creating the life that I want, because I don't have kids yet. So I'm still trying to build and all and get that nest egg ready for when I got to take on to be the head of a family and all. So right now is like that time for me. I'm in all types of like financial podcasts, figuring out what to do, flip my money. I'm about to purchase my first rental property out here in Denver. And about probably it's going to take another like 2 months, 2.5 months. But like I'm setting all these things up and putting these things in alignment because you never know what's going to happen with the Daily Blast Live or New York Giants, whatever. I don't want to be one of those people who you have to, like, I have to do a job or something. I'm trying to put my money in places now to where when I'm 10 years, 15 years from now, I just want to be taking care of babies. That's what I love. Our older brother, Mike, when I go home and I see how he is with his kids and stuff like that, that's what I want when it's time and when it's ready. So now I'm just preparing myself for another stage in life, man, because you're consistently going to grow. You're consistently going to evolve. That's why I'm saying you don't have to have a definitive why right now. The best part about it is you got it in you, So because when you're 30, your goals are going to be different than what they are now. When you're 35, when you're 40, 55. So I'm just to you guys, just continuously evolve, continuously adapt and grow. And that's what I'm trying to do now.
That's good to hear. I mean, I think it sounds like, not even only like being your little brother, but just hearing from you and learning from your stories, it sounds like, you kind of have the tools to get that done. So, I appreciate you coming and telling me your story. Obviously, it's a little different than when we're in the group chats and we're playing Warzone and things like that. But it's nice to actually sit down and kind of have like these one-on-one, real conversations. And I think that a lot of people can kind of benefit from your story because, like I said, while you've been on national TV, while you've, hung out with celebrities and models and things like that, you've taken extravagant vacation. You've done a lot of awesome things, but at the same time, you had to work for it, right? You had to grind, you had to go get it. So the last thing I'll leave you on, the last thing I want to ask is advice. Just give me some quick hitter advice, just from what you've learned in your career, one or two line thing that like either someone has told you that's worked, something that you're going through now that's working. Just hit me with that one quick, that thing you can run with.
Hit singles. I remember I was out doing AfterBuzz TV. Kevin something after Maria Menounos' husband. He was talking to me. He's a manager and all that stuff, and he looked over my reel and all this. And I was saying how I wanted to get to where I wanted to get to, and all. He was like, "Hey, man, you're trying to swing you're trying to hit a home run too much. Hit singles. Just get on base. Just keep getting on base. Keep being consistent. Consistency is key." In this business, you could be a flash in the pan and that gets you 15 minutes, or you could be consistent and that gets you 15 years. So hit singles, bat singles. And then when you got all the confidence in the world and that fat juicy pitch is going to come across, that opportunity, and take that thing to the moon and hit that grand slam, and bam, there goes your blessing right there.
Awesome. Well, listen, grand slam of an opportunity hanging out with you here. Like I said,
good transition. That was cool.
I appreciate you for coming on, and looking forward to being your little brother, man, and just seeing you grow. I like looking up to you. I like you being my role model, and I can't wait to keep bragging about my older brother and keep showing people all the awesome things that he's doing. So
Yeah, love you, Mike.